Hello everyone, this is Teresa Van Leisha here out near Uluru, Ayers Rock. Been out here for about 5 days. Now this is Atila here. The Aboriginal people call this monolith Atila, and the European people call it Mount Connor. And it's owned by a cattle station. I'm going to talk about this now, this monolith and what it actually is. So I need to turn the camera around again. You can see me. I'm going to be talking for about half an hour about all sorts of issues, and then, sorry, just get that right. You can't see it there. Okay, hang on a minute. It's just I've got a whole bunch of cameras on his phone, and you can't get the right one to do the right job all the time. So I'll just sort this out first. Sorry about this. Okay. Now, what I want to say about Atila here, lots of things. Well, first of all, I've been out here for, as I said, about 5 days. I stayed in Ayers Rock, which is Uluru, and first time for me out here. And it's just so brilliant, you know, meeting some of the local Aboriginal people and talking to so people all over the world that stay here. They've got Ayers Rock, which is called Uluru, and then they've got Tuja, which is a set of rocks further west. And they have this one here called Atila. Now it's owned by a cattle station. It's got Aboriginal artwork on it, I've been told. I went on a couple of tours out there. And so it's owned by a cattle station. So the Aboriginal people don't control this one. It's got Aboriginal artwork on it, I've been told. There is a tour group that goes out there periodically. This is what I've been told. And I just want to talk about this structure. At the beginning of the video you saw a bigger picture, and I can't do it with this same camera to get it big. Now I want you to go back and look at the beginning of this video and study the structure of this monolith here. It's what it is it's actually, I'll just show you my t-shirt first, one of my t-shirts. Make Australia Great Again, and make St. Teresa Governor General. It's been a while since I've done a video actually. Now I'm going to talk about what this is in the Old Testament. Do you know that in the Old Testament, it's I think it's the book of Deuteronomy and Numbers, it talks about giants in the Old Testament, the Nephilim of the Old Testament. You can read those books about how there were giants on the earth, and all over the world there is archaeological evidence of fossils of giant humans and giant animals, and also giant petrified rock formations and trees. Okay, now this structure here, if you get a close-up look at it, people say, oh, it's a rock, it's a mountain, but actually this, I think this is an ancient giant petrified tree, according to the Old Testament. Now there are hundreds of pictures around the world of old, ancient, petrified trees like this one, which the Old Testament gives an explanation, as I said, in the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Numbers and a few other places. And what it talks about, there are giants in the Old Testament that lived on the earth, and the Nephilim they call them, and there were giant trees. And there's even teachings about how the giants were instructed by God to grab the trees, these giant trees, and rip them off and break them off. Okay, and there were reasons for that. You can read those narratives for yourselves. I'll try and find the scripture passages for you to look at. So you see the shape of this monolith here. It goes out like that, and it comes out, and then it goes up like that. If they had aerial photographs, aerial shots of this structure, Atila, you'd see small circles, circles on the top, like a tree, how a tree, the structure of a tree, and it goes up like that, and it's got these rings that go around it. They're actually small rings put together that make up how the tree looks. you'll see that at the top of that structure there. It's an ancient petrified tree. That's what it is. It should be open to the public. It's owned by a cattle station. So I think that what should happen is that it should be bought out by the public, and that it should be, people should go and visit it. And we need a university in Australia where they do study what the giants of the Old Testament, and the pictures all over the world of human skeletons, large giant skeletons, large giant fossils that have been uncovered, large giant trees, large giant animals as well, fish and animals and other. And I'll put some of those pictures in the video link in the video comments. So there should be a university that studies those teachings in the Old Testament, and physical evidence, geographical evidence, and archaeological evidence that proves that what was taught back in that time in the Old Testament is correct. Also, there's a documentary I'm going to put up on my Facebook from Dr. Patrick Heron. He was an Irish theologian. He's not alive anymore. But he was, for 20 years, he studied what the scripture was saying about the pyramids in Egypt. That the pyramids were a physical representation of, they were built by the Nephilim of the Old Testament, these giants that lived, and they built the pyramids. This is what this doctor was saying, this theologian, Christian theologian. And he said that giants of the Old Testament built the pyramids, and that they were mathematically precise, and he went through archaeology and mathematics and geology and geography and all this to prove that that the giants of the Old Testament built the pyramids as an earthly representation to a future New Jerusalem that's taught about in the book of Revelation. So the structure of the pyramid is the New Jerusalem in the book of Revelation, a 2,000 square metre city. He said it's the shape of a pyramid. And the earthly pyramid were built by giants as a physical representation, as like an altar to God, to the Lord, which is, they were thrown out of heaven, and they were thrown down. Those angels, those large angels, and they had sex with human women, and they procreated and had giant babies and all that. Anyway, they reckon, well, this theologian reckons that they built the pyramids of the of Egypt as a physical earthly representation of like an altar to God, and something that represented where they'd come from, heaven, and as a representation of the future Jerusalem, New Jerusalem in the book of Revelation. So the physical city that's to be built, where humans will go in on the new heaven and the new earth, Christian people, and they'll live in that city, and they'll come in and out of the city, so God will be there, and it's shaped like a pyramid. So it's incredibly interesting. Even scientifically it's very interesting, archaeologically it's very interesting, and mathematically it's very interesting. He goes through all the mathematics of it and all this sort of thing. Now I also want to talk about, just briefly, while I'm talking about the Old Testament and this Atila here, which I believe is an ancient giant petrified tree, and we'll see if we can find more scientific evidence for that. There really needs to be a study on it, and like a university set up to study these sort of Old Testament structures that are visible in the world. Now, talking about the Old Testament, the Jewish people, I'm going to talk about now, I'm going to talk about what some people are saying about Jewish people. Okay, now I haven't said anything about this up to date because I'm just getting sick and tired of people getting on my social media, particularly Facebook, and saying the Jews are to blame for everything, and it's all bullshit and garbage and rubbish. It's absolute horse shit when they're saying that. There's hundreds of reasons why that's rubbish, and I'll go through just some of the reasons why that's rubbish, and I'm sick of it. I don't agree with that. It's not true. It's crap, and there's lots of reasons, and I don't want you to go and get on my Facebook and social media and say that, because you can exercise free speech about whatever you want on any topic, any issue, any subject, any person, any people, everywhere. That can be done on your social media, on other social media sites, and it can be done on my social media. But if you're going to abuse me and insult me or threaten me or degrade me in any way, your comments probably going to get deleted. If you're going to talk shit on my social media, it's probably going to get deleted too if I get around to it, because I don't have time to check everything. But if I think that you're spewing bullshit and lies and garbage about people and groups of people and things like that, I'm probably just going to delete it, because I don't want that on my social media. And you also do get to exercise free speech elsewhere. So I am a free speech absolutist. But that doesn't mean that I have to accept what I think is rubbish and garbage and bullshit on my social media, because I don't want people being taught lies and rubbish. I'm the teacher, and that's what I want to be promoted. So you have the right to exercise that free speech elsewhere. Don't ever try and accuse me of not promoting free speech. Free speech, it should be number one in the law. Absolutely. When I promote a Bill of Rights, say when I become the Governor General, first thing I'll do is legislate a Bill of Rights. Number one, free speech. Okay, free speech is incredibly important in the law and in society, and there's hundreds of reasons for that. But if I think you're talking shit and lies and bullshit on my social media, I have a right to delete it if I want to, because you have that right to do it on yours as well. Doesn't mean you don't have free speech, because you have the right to exercise free speech elsewhere. Now, there's reasons why I say it's garbage, because there's many reasons. Just some of the reasons are, do you know that only 0.2% of the world's population is Jewish? Okay, there are only 16 million Jews in the world. Only 16 million Jews. Okay, about 8 million Jews live in Israel, and 8 million Jews live elsewhere around the world. So only 16 million Jews in existence currently, and they are only 0.2% of the world's population. Okay, not 1% of the world's population, 0.2% of the world's population. So they're a very, very small group of people, very tiny group of people. That means that 99.8% of the global population is not Jewish. And in Australia, it's 99.6% of the Australian population is not Jewish. Okay, and they're a very, very small group of people. So that means when people say, oh, the Jews are controlling the banking system, that's bullshit. Garbage. You know why? Because 99.8% of banking directors are not Jewish. And then they say, oh, the Jews are controlling all the politicians. That's garbage as well. That because 99.8% of politicians are not Jewish, okay, and they're responsible for their own decisions and actions and rhetoric. They're responsible for that themselves, okay? And people say, oh, the Jews are controlling all the media and the Hollywood and all that, and all the media people all over the world and all that. Garbage. Why is it garbage? Because 99.8% of the world's population is not Jewish. Okay, and then they say, oh, the Jews are controlling the pharmaceutical industry and they're killing your brother David with those drugs and all that. That's bullshit too, because 99.8% of pharmaceutical directors are not Jewish, 99.8% of psychiatrists are not Jewish. So that's not true. It's fucking horse shit, all right, when people say this sort of stuff. Then they put up a picture of 10 or 15 Jewish faces with their names, which you can barely read, and they say, oh, they're controlling this and controlling that, controlling this. Well, they're still not even 99.8% of the world's population controlling those entities. So they may be 0.0001% of the people controlling those entities. So that's that. It's all horseshit and bullshit what people are saying about it. Okay? Then when you look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, it's all about Jewish people. The word Jew and Hebrew and Zion are all the same. They're all interchangeable. Okay, they're all interchangeable words. They're talking about the Israelites, the Hebrew people, the Jewish people. And Jesus was Jewish in the New Testament, all about the Jewish people. And he said he came to save, love and save Jews and Gentiles, which is the entire population. Now, there are teachings in the New Testament where Jesus said some people say they're Jews and they're not Jews. So they're talking about people who are not Jewish, who are in the 99.8%. So you don't have a right to trash Jews as a group. There are only 6 million people. And when Jesus made that distinction, that was because he knew in this time there would be people who are claiming to be Jewish people but aren't. and so they aren't Jews. So you can't just send them and say, oh, Jews are scum and bad and all this sort of garbage. It's absolute fucking horseshit. And, you know, I see it. People, I even saw a video the other day and someone was trying to say that Jews created the LGBTQ plus people. Well, that's clearly horseshit, because 99.8% of LGBTQ plus people are not Jewish. And it doesn't matter what argument you come up with. If you're saying they're controlling this, they're controlling that, they're controlling all these things, all these entities and organisations and all that. Well, just remember, when people are claiming that 99.8% of those organisations and those directors and those people controlling those organisations are not Jewish. So stop lying about this bullshit. And then, so I want you to have a look at one of my signs I bought recently. No stupid people beyond this point. Okay? It is absolutely ridiculous and absurd and stupid and dumb and retarded to think that 16 million people are responsible for all the world's problems and cause all the world's problems and all this sort of bullshit. It is absolutely absurd to think that and to try to claim that, you know. And then you've got, let's have a look at real demographics, okay? You know, there are 32% of the world's population is Christian. 3.37 billion Christians currently living. About 2 billion Muslims currently living. 25% of the world's population. 59% of the world's population is Asian. They're not Jewish. And the Muslims aren't Jewish. The Christians aren't Jewish. But there are Jewish Christians. Now let's compare 2.37 billion Christians to 16 million Jews. Or 2 billion Muslims to 16 million Jews. Or 59% of the world's population is Asian, which is about, 4.5 billion people. 4.5 billion Asians. Compare that to 16 million Jews. It's a no-brainer. Mathematically, they are not controlling everything. They're not responsible for everything. They didn't cause all the problems of the world and all this sort of bullshit. How many atheists are there in the world? Probably 35% of the world's population is atheists. About 4 billion humans, 3.5 billion humans are atheists. They choose the devil. They're not Jewish. They're basically... Atheists choose the devil. Muslim men choose the devil. I pick on Muslim men specifically for that purpose, because those women in the black sheet, they're slaves. They need our help. They need freedom and rights. They need the rights and freedom and safety to break off that black sheet and and that slavery, that yoke of slavery forced by the men. They're dangerous men. They raped about 1 million children in Britain over the last 40 years. I proved that in my book in chapter 11. Okay? They forced the black sheet. They want all women to wear the black sheet. They'll kill Jews, Christians, atheists, gays, black people, everybody, just like Hitler did. Hitler was not a good person, and the Nazi politicians. And now I've seen videos and comments about saying, oh, Hitler was a good guy and all this bullshit. Rubbish. 70 million people died in the Second World War over 6 years. Soldiers and civilians. He murdered Jews and he murdered Christians as well. He murdered, say, 6 million Jews, but 6 million more of other people too. Christians, foreigners, black people, gay people, political dissidents, teachers, academics, people like me, teachers. That's why they tried to kill me here in Australia. And they've harmed me and my family. You know, because they're like Hitler too, the politicians in Australia. Or socialists, Lenin and Stalin and Lenin, communists. They kill a lot of people, you know. The Muslims kill everyone, the men, and they will kill everybody who doesn't conform to and obey their pedophile man. They made their own book in the 6th century, in the 600s. I think it was the 6th century or the 7th century. And they corrupted what they came from, the Old Testament again. The Old Testament, where Hagar and Ishmael had Ishmael by, Hagar the concubine had with Abraham, had the baby Ishmael. And that's where the Islamic people come from. But then in the Old Testament, but they wrote their own book in the 6th century, the Quran, and it's full of rubbish and violence and murder and disgusting things. Just like that Talmud is not a real Jewish book. That's full of disgusting stuff as well. And I found another one, which I can't remember the name of, which I have to look a bit into. So, as well, the Talmud is a bullshit book. It's rubbish. It's full of garbage. It's not a real Jewish book. The Old Testament is all about the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, the Israelites. Zion is in the Old Testament. It's just another word for Hebrew. All those words are interchangeable for the same group, for the same 16 million people currently living. And yes, they have been murdered and persecuted throughout history. That's why there's only 16 million of them left. And if you look at the Old Testament maps, there are maps where Israel was a lot larger. And I'll put some links to some American preachers who go through the history of the land of Israel, the geographical Israel, and from the start. That's where Adam and Eve come from, the Garden of Eden, that land. It belongs to them. Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. All nations that bless you will be blessed. All nations that curse you will be cursed. You know. And then there's maps, and with actually the word Palestine too, which is used interchangeably with Israel back then in that time. But the people living there now are Muslims, and they don't have a claim to that. It was a much larger geographical area historically, and we need a team of biblical scholars to go in there and map out exact boundaries and borders so that they're separate and they don't interfere with each other. So if you think also, the atheists, that's why they jump up and down about Palestine and all that. They choose the devil, atheists, with the Muslim men. And that's why they join together to destroy Australia and America and Europe and even Asian countries, trying to destroy them. So, that's why. Because there's two teams in this world. There's the God and Jesus team, and then there's the devil's team. God and Jesus is God and Jesus team is the Christians and the Jews. When Jesus comes back at the second coming in the book of Revelation, the Jews will be saved. And that Antichrist that comes from the north of Israel, like the book of Daniel says, in the 7-year tribulation, he'll come from the north into Israel, set himself up as a king and say, I am God, worship me, and take my 666 mark of the beast on the right hand of the forehead or be killed. That's a foreign impostor doing that, coming into Jerusalem. The Jews will flee and they'll realize that Jesus was the Messiah. So Jesus and Israel is important to the world and us. And all this garbage, sorry, all these people just showed up. All this garbage that people say about that group, that tiny little group. There's only 16 million currently living. And there'll be a big army of 200 million strong march against that tiny little nation, Israel, trying to wipe it out and destroy it. But Jesus will come back and whoosh, he'll just wipe out that satanic 666 army. Now, what I object to, having said all that, what I object to in Australia when they make these hate speech laws, which are really, they hate free speech. They hate freedom, these corrupt criminal politicians. They hate freedom, they hate free speech, they hate us. They hate real Australians, they hate Christians. They should all be in jail. And you don't have a right to make hate free speech laws for anybody. So I don't agree that those laws should be made for any group or because free speech is incredibly important to talk about everything. So, if you don't love Australia and want to live here and love Australia, go and live in another country. Go and live in a different country. That's it. You don't have a right to bully and threaten Australians and use the law to harm Australians. And I object to that. They shouldn't be doing it for any lobby group or any group or anything. And that's wrong. So don't do that. Free speech, just trying to destroy free speech, that's all that is. They're the haters, these political people. Now, they're also trying to put Pauline Hanson back in jail, and that's pretty disgusting, isn't it? I mean, that's just horrendous, because she made some comments about Muslims. She said, there are apparently no good Muslims, right? Now, I'll tell you a little story about that. There was a young man, a rich young man, and when Jesus was alive walking the earth in Israel, he had thousands of people following him all the time. And this young man, rich young man, came up to him and said, "Good teacher, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to this young man, he said, "Why do you call me good? Nobody is good except God alone." Now what Jesus was saying is that we all have a sinful nature. None of us are good. God is good. God is great. And Jesus is great. You know, great and loving. And we've got the fruits of the Spirit, fruits of the Holy Spirit in the New Testament: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. So we aren't good on our own. We have a sinful nature. We need God's love and Holy Spirit and his power and love and Jesus' love and power to be good. So none of us are good unless we make a concerted effort to be good. And that's what I want for the Muslim people to turn to Jesus, as well as the atheists. Turn to Jesus. You know, Australia is a Christian nation. Still half the people in Australia are Christian. And with all these lies going around about this and all this oppression and violence from the government, it's just causing so many problems in Australia. You know, I've got solutions and answers. You know, the black sheep, okay, we should ban it, and there's hundreds of reasons why, but you have to punish the men, Muslim men, when they try and enforce it, because they will. They'll still enslave those women, you know, because we can control them and say that's a criminal offence to force women to wear a black sheet. It's assault and torture and attempted murder, because they kill people, they kill women, they stone them in Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran and all that, and put them in prison, put them in prison 10 years in Iran for not wearing the black sheet. And for those women to get out of that slavery, they have to leave their whole family, ostracize themselves with their whole family, and they still get death threats and all that. And they have that, what they call honor killings and all that, when they don't wear the black sheet and be controlled. That's not honorable, that's just murder. It's just cold-blooded murder. So we have to ban the black sheet for all women, because they want to do it to all women. And we punish the men, Muslim men, and say, no, you go to jail if you're going to try and force women to wear it, because you're forcing a criminal act, assault and torture, and that's it. And those women need our help too, you know. So they need our help. Places like Lakemba and all that, they're lost. That area, we're probably going to need the military and the police to go in there with 1 million Australians and reclaim that area. So these dangerous imams and all that saying all this stuff and threatening us and all that, do that all over the world. There's so much evidence for it, in the Western world particularly. They have to be deported. Foreign criminals, not just them, foreign criminals. You've got people brought here into Victoria, machete-wielding criminals. You know, they have to be deported. Foreign criminals need to be deported or put on an island somewhere. They don't deserve to live in Australia. They hate Australia. There's people living here that hate Australia. What the fuck are you doing living here if you hate Australia or any nation? Don't go to any nation and say, pick, and trash the local people and trash the people born here and all this, and it's totally evil and criminal. You know, if you go to someone's house, you treat them with respect. Anybody's house, anybody's country. You don't start trashing the people and treating them like garbage. They should be deported straight away. You've got Muslim men who are mayors now in the councils. Very dangerous people. They hate us, and they say it by their own admission. They have to be deported. And it's all these Commonwealth criminal charges that apply. Espionage, sedition towards real Australians, harming Australians is a criminal offence. Offences against sovereigns is a criminal offence. Reckless foreign interference is a criminal offence under section 93 of the .21 of the 92.3 of the Criminal Code Act 1995. That's Commonwealth laws. So all these laws that apply, criminal laws. When you're a foreigner and you work in the government that's not born here in Australia, you are committing criminal offences, Commonwealth criminal offences under the Australian law. They're not applying that, and it has to be applied, because you're coming in, it's espionage, treason, treachery, with the other politicians from here doing it, you know, Labor and the Greens, because they're criminals and they're atheists. They choose the devil. They're doing the devil's work, and that's why the Muslims are using them to harm us. It's very, very evil to do that. Go to someone's country. It's like me going to Iraq or Iran or Zimbabwe or Japan or somewhere like that, or anywhere in Europe or America, and becoming a politician or working in the government saying, oh, you're scum, you're bad, you're this, you're crap, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get rid of you. You know, I'm going to just you know, it's just unheard of, but they do it, and somehow it's acceptable. And that you know, those women in the Parliament, those women, Faruqi and the other one, Payman or whatever the hell her name is, what they say is absolutely disgusting. You know, that Pauline Hanson should pack her bags and go and live in America and all this. What the fuck is that all about? You know, you're committing espionage under the Commonwealth law by even being in our Parliament. It is so disgusting and criminal and disgraceful, and they don't have the black sheet on, do they? They are disgusting, those women. But all these other foreign politicians in our Parliament, state and federal, are disgusting too. They don't have the black sheet on, but they're telling us that we're scum, and they're just harming those women too with the black sheet because they're enforcing slavery. Why don't they have the black sheet on, those two politicians? They shouldn't be anywhere near here. But they are enforcing that ideology, Islamic ideology, male-dominated, who's enforcing it, and they are keeping those women enslaved. They are disgusting. How the hell? That is totally criminal under those Commonwealth criminal charges, and I've got a sheet here with all the criminal laws, the Commonwealth criminal laws and charges that apply here about it, and I have read those out before. So the federal police need to charge them with espionage, sedition, treachery, harming Australians, offences against sovereigns, reckless foreign interference under the Commonwealth law. They need to be charged with that, jailed, charged, and deported. That's it. Solution. But there's many, many things that can be done to stop the evil, disgusting shit going on in Australia. And that's why it's going on, because I'm not yet the Governor-General. That's the number one reason. If I had 900,000 followers, I'd be the Governor-General by now. And all this evil goes on and on and on because of one main reason. Because I'm not the Governor-General yet. And it should have happened 5 years ago. It's the public's fault as well, the media people. Not the people that follow my work and promote my work, not you. I'm talking about if you call yourself an independent media person, look, all these independent media people, if they're not promoting me for Governor-Generals, don't listen to them. Write in the comment, unless you promote Teresa Van Lieshout for Governor-General, we're not going to listen to you anymore. All the media people too, the corporate media people, they all know who I am. They're censoring me on my brilliant 556-page book with all this evidence about all this political government criminality. And because I'm a teacher for 30 years, I've got a Master of Education, and because I'm a born-again Christian, they know if they promote me for Governor-General, if they interview me and promote me for Governor-General like they should be doing and interviewing me, that I will be the Governor-General and all these problems will be fixed. I know how to fix everything. I know how to use the Constitution and the Commonwealth law and the state law and all the public resources of this country to fix everything. This is why they're censoring me. Censorship is criminal. There should be laws against censorship. And it's deliberate because they're making hundreds of millions of dollars from their political connection, and it's totally criminal what's going on here. But if I had 900,000 followers like Pauline Hanson has, you know, I'd be the Governor-General by now. The position of Prime Minister is not in the Australian Constitution. There is no Prime Minister job. There's no job called Prime Minister in the Constitution of Australia. There isn't. It's the Governor-General who's in charge under Section 61 to 70. If she wants to lead this country, she should go for the Governor-General's job, but she doesn't. She said repeatedly that she doesn't want to be that fake job Prime Minister. And she's good. They're giving her a hard time. They're giving her a hard time. They're trying to jail her again, okay, for free speech, for what is actually free speech. That's not what jails are for. Jails are for violent people, violent murderers, rapists, drug traffickers, drug dealers, violent criminals, machete-wielding criminals, other violent criminals. That's what jails are for. But they put you in jail for free speech in Australia because they've got these disgusting, evil laws now. And, you know, this man recently got jailed for 12 months for publicly saying what he did about the group, the Hebrew group, which is factually wrong. It's just a bullshit, dumb thing to say. It's factually wrong what he said. But he doesn't deserve to go to jail for 12 months for it, for free speech. You got people breaking into houses and violent criminals raping children and all this sort of thing going on. And wearing the black sheet, forcing the black sheet. That's assault and torture right there. Killing people with the psychiatric drugs and the pharmaceutical drugs. And there's the 3,500 psychiatrists in Australia, government psychiatrists, they're all killers. They're all murderers. And the public advocate workers are murderers, the SAT judges are killers, the politicians are killing the people, our people. Been doing it for 200 years. They've been killing our people with pharmaceutical drugs and bringing in millions and millions of foreigners to take over and keep them in power. That's how criminal what's going on here. And they know, they put me on the news a few times, here and there, half an hour, here and there for a couple of weeks. That's it, game over. And that's what censorship does, you know. That's why I'm very angry all the time. Because I love the people here. I love Australians. I love everybody, you know. Like Jesus. I love Jesus. Jesus loves everyone, but not everybody loves Jesus, you know. That's why I do love everyone. And I've put up with so much abuse, assault, death threats, rape threats. I've been assaulted by the government, you know, 15 times, thrown in prison twice. I've had $350,000 stolen from me by those monsters in the federal government. Tried to kill me twice. You know, why the hell would you bother? Wasting $50 million destroying me, and even my family's been threatened. They're killing my brother David. My family gets threatened with the police, with these killer psychiatrists and the politicians. It's like Hitler all over again. You know, why would they bother doing that if I wasn't an important person? And this is what they do. They're very dangerous. Like I said in my book, many times, the political government people in Australia are only 1% of the population, but they're very dangerous people. They've got weapons. You know, it's easy to do tyranny when you've got weapons and when you're controlling everything. They're to blame. They're 100% to blame. It's easy to be a tyrant and a bully and a criminal when you've got guns and all this, and you know the blue uniform on or whatever. Well, so what? I don't care what you wear or how many guns or weapons you have. You're a criminal if you don't listen to me, and if you don't start arresting these politicians and these killer psychiatrists and these banking directors and some of these media directors, total criminals as well. Just do it. It's so much easier for the police to do that and get respect from me and the whole country, and the police will be respected again. But they aren't. And heaven and hell. You know, heaven and hell is real. Everybody goes to heaven or hell. And we get to choose our own leaders. The political law is just writing on a bit of paper. It doesn't mean anything unless it's used properly. And whole nations can change by just putting the right leaders in place, by whatever means. Because that's the morally right thing to do. To be an excellent leader, you have to have excellent morals. And I have got excellent morals as a Christian, as a teacher. And the wisdom and intelligence and the discernment that goes with being a good leader, you must only have people like that in power. Only Christians. Even in the police, we need Christians in the police, in the military and all that, the parliament, doctors, teachers, lawyers, everything. If you've got atheists in government, they just destroy everybody because they're fucking evil bastards. They do what the devil wants. The devil's a liar, a murderer and a thief. If Muslim men in power and these stupid women in the parliament, they're evil. They don't have the mind of Jesus. They don't have the wisdom and intelligence and discernment and morality that comes with knowing Jesus to be a good leader. So just with that group that some people are picking on and all that, it's not even worth it for them to go to prison, is it, for something that's factually not even correct? There's only 16 million Jews in the world. There's 27 million Australians. We live in Australia, okay? We live in Australia. So let's focus on the Australian people. 99.6% of Australians are not Jewish. 99.8% of the world's population are not Jewish. To try to blame 0.2% for everything is just absurd, ridiculous, retarded, and it's just mind-blowing that people can even get to that point where, you know, they're just watching these silly videos and all this. And so look at history. They're trying to wipe out 100 years of history and said the European Holocaust didn't happen. They don't look at primary evidence. I'm going to put some primary evidence up of something that happened in the Second World War. Primary evidence. You've got to, when you study something or research something to find out whether it's true and correct, you've got to look at Are they using primary evidence? Primary evidence, photographs and video footage at the time back. This is what historians do, and academics and teachers. They study primary evidence. If you look at an issue or a topic or even a person, you have to look at primary evidence, not just a snapshot here or there, a photo or whatever, everything. And it's what happens at the time. Video evidence, photographic evidence, written evidence, speeches that they gave, other archive material, other witness evidence of people at the time. That's what historians do, okay? The Nazis were tyrants. They murdered a lot of people, their own people as well, soldiers. They sent them in. They tried to conquer Europe. They crossed borders and went into other nations. They murdered 70 million people. They murdered their own people too, as soldiers and civilians. And all the people that died in that war, okay? So they did. They're evil people. And these people, I don't know how you get brainwashed that badly to be able to go and stand up there and make speeches and say dumb things like that. But they shouldn't be thrown in jail for it. You know, you don't throw people in jail for free speech. You throw people in jail for violent criminal activity. All right then. Anyway, this is Atila. So I'm going to be putting some stuff about this up, about how these ancient petrified trees and there's ancient petrified animal fossils, ancient petrified giant trees, and ancient petrified giant animals and humans as well from the Old Testament, the Nephilim of the Old Testament. Okay, thanks.